Welcome to Wing World and welcome to the most important part of your learning, which is really the foundation of this sport. Wing control is a little bit difficult to understand, and that's why most people struggle with it. Part of the struggle is also because it's a very sensitive tool and you're gonna have to learn to handle it with precision. But the real killer really, it's understanding its mechanism. And fortunately, we have video, which is really helpful to illustrate this well. And once you get it, you can go get some hands-on practice, and then you can come back to the video and you'll have some of those sweet aha moments where you feel like you've gained a deeper understanding. And so if it goes like this should probably be the most watched video on the channel, but anyways, I'll leave that to you guys. Here's a list of things we're gonna go through today. Ready? Go. Everybody just get on down. Okay, so at first we're gonna go to the beach to practice. Just raise the wing from the neutral handle and notice how the wind itself holds it up. If you wait in this position, you'll notice the wing starts flapping just like a flag. This happens both when the wing is upside down and also in position. And so never let it flap, because this is going to make you lose balance. You see, in the water it's just such an inconvenience to have it swing around like this. Simply put your other hand on the leading edge and you're done. Then let's flip the wing. To understand the technique to do this, check the video on flipping the wing. It's a simple thing, but most people waste hours in the water getting frustrated with flipping the wing, so don't underestimate the step. Following, we have to grab the handles, or boom, but especially for handles, when we're trying to reach for the back handle, we might end up pointlessly faffing around for a long time, so check this video for the right technique. And now we've come to the real crux of the matter. Once you're here, we need to control the wing to actually sail. And this thing is free to move in 3 dimensions, which means a whole lot of freedom to go in bad positions. So we need to understand the 2 crucial elements of wing control: orientation and angle of attack. Orientation is not a single dimension, but it includes the Z and Y axis, and it is a term that I use that turned out to be extremely useful for getting an intuitive understanding of how to orient the wing correctly. A correct orientation of the wing simply means that it pulls forward, because we need forward pull to sail. The force of the wing goes like this, and this arrow needs to have a forward component to it. But instead of thinking about this arrow, we can make it even easier and just look at the wing in front of us and take the boom as a reference. If it's aiming forward, good. If it's aiming upward, bad. Now, aiming completely forward is actually a little too extreme, because when you get all the way to horizontal, you will touch the tip into the water and this will happen. So, your ideal range for orientation is between diagonal and slightly less than horizontal. Let's just observe though that the tilt of the tips is also part of orientation. If I rotate the boom towards horizontal, but then this tip goes up, here the wing is not very well oriented for moving forward, because you see, the arrow indicating the force starts pointing up too much, and so its forward component is smaller. Anyways, this position of the wing is not a stable one, so the wing will actually move away from it on its own, but you might end up there for a few moments and wonder why is it not working, and now you know, it's just not a good orientation. Now, here's the single most important thing you'll ever hear in all of these videos. Orienting the wing correctly is the first thing we do, and it is the prerequisite for everything else in wing foiling to work. 100% of beginners end up forgetting about orientation as they are focusing on something else, maybe on their balance or the board or whatever, and they find themselves with the wing like this, without realizing, and wonder why is it not working. Orientation is the prerequisite for everything else in wing foiling to work, and it's normal that you will forget it because there are so many things to think about at the same time and it's overwhelming. But when something doesn't work, ask yourself, was my orientation good? But once orientation is good, we can now act upon this angle, the x-axis. Increasing the angle of attack is called sheeting in, and decreasing it, sheeting out. And you can see that we changed this angle only a little bit. The angle of attack gives the wing its power. The wing pulls not because the wind is pushing from here, the wind needs to beat against the leading edge, and increasing the angle of attack we deflect the airflow, and this curved airflow creates a force going this way. So, since angle of attack is what gives power to the wing, instead of sheeting in or sheeting out, you might hear me saying powering up or depowering. Notice that if we sheet in too much, the airflow cannot stick to the canvas and turbulences are created here. This effect is called backstalling, and it will turn the pull of the wing this direction. This is because now the wind is pushing from here, just like I was telling you before it shouldn't do, and will feel like the wing wants to fall down and it's difficult to keep a forward orientation. The wing seems to want to aim upward on its own when you're backstalling. I'll tell you what, the more upward you orient the wing, the easier it will be to backstall. So it's a vicious cycle. The more you go vertical, the more you backstall, and the more you backstall, the more the wing wants to stay vertical. The lighter the wind, the less you can sheet in before backstalling. Look at this example with 8 knots and this example with 20. Alright, so how do we control the wing? As I said, we first want to orient the wing forward without sheeting in at all. The key here is in your back hand. All wing control can actually be done with both arms, but at first it is easier to fix your front arm in one spot, locking your elbow to the body like this to create a sort of fixed pivot point at the front of the wing, and then use your back hand to change the orientation. Notice that the front hand needs to have an undergrip in order to keep your elbow locked like this. With the back hand, I'm applying this force to orient more forward and this force to orient more upward. I'm not applying this force instead, which would increase the angle of attack. For now, you only want to orient it forward and leave it completely sheeted out. And once you get very close to horizontal, you might need to do little corrections towards upwards because this tip otherwise might touch into the water. Here comes the importance of leaning back, which allows you to keep the wing as horizontal as possible without touching the tip. If you catch the tip into the water, if you're quick, you can still save it by verticalizing the wing as much as possible using both arms. The way to train to get the orientation right is doing some beach training and teaching your muscles to orient the wing without sheeting in. The front arm muscles have to learn that they are the ones holding the wing, so keep the arm bent and don't let it go extended, because this would make you sheet in. While as you grab the end of the boom with the back hand, teach your muscles to keep this arm relaxed and extended, because otherwise, again, you would start sheeting in. And if you did, you'd immediately get power the moment you grab it, which is a classic dynamic that makes people immediately fall forward. So when you grab the back of the boom, just place your hand there and don't do anything. Teach your body that it can stay in this position and the wing is simply neutral and nothing is happening. Only then you'll be ready to start orienting the wing. As I said before, keeping the front arm locked in place, apply this force to orient forward and this force to orient upward. Controlling the orientation of the wing means a constant control through the back hand, because the moment you let go of the back hand, the wing just goes back to being flat. For reference, you should have your front hand slightly higher than the back, roughly in front of your nose, and the back hand roughly at shoulder height. Another reference you can check is the relationship between the front tip and the tail. The tip should always be lower than the tail. If they are at the same level, this is the very bare minimum orientation you need to go forward. And this reference point can change based on the wing you have, so don't take it as an absolute and keep that tail higher than the tip. In fact, the tail's position is particularly important in the control of the orientation. It should never be too much lower than your shoulder. In order to make sure you're controlling it correctly, try this drill. Start with the wing in this position, and now twist the wing to orient it forward, all with your front hand. You'll see you're making a lot of force with the wrist. Now try to slide your hand a little bit lower on the boom. You will notice it's a little bit easier to control the orientation from this point. This is because the lower you go on the boom, the more leverage you have for twisting the wing into a forward orientation, and that's what your back hand is supposed to do. From the bottom of the boom, it will have great leverage, and you won't make basically any effort at all. Notice that as long as I only had one hand, the tail always remained at the correct height. But now with the backhand on the boom, I can do this motion, which is lowering the tail. If you do it a little bit, it's fine, but our muscles have the natural tendency to also pull towards the ground as we pull towards us, and if you pull downward too much, you will verticalize the orientation. Anyways, pulling like this with the back arm is something you do for sheeting in, and you can actually sheet in by extending the front arm instead of pulling with the back. So once you're done with orientation exercises and you want to start sheeting in, you can now start doing it with the front arm. And anyways, you will still have to pay attention to not lower too much your back hand, but my point is that for sheeting in, at least at first, it's preferable to extend the front arm to try and avoid the bad tendency of the back arm. Fantastic! You are now with good orientation and you're also sheeting in to get power. As you're experimenting on the beach, look for maximum power and stand on only one leg as an exercise to develop your balance on the board. First the back leg and then the front. Check leaning back importance to understand how this dynamic influences your balance. And be careful, because sheeting in can easily make the wing go past the horizontal line and flip forward like this, so once you're in this good position, experiment again with stirring the wing, because now that your front arm is extended, you're going to have to use both arms. Another thing you should learn on the beach is to depower the wing quickly. Repeat this movement many times to teach it to your muscles. Okay, so just to recap for you, on the beach you should learn first to orient the wing, then to power it up, and then depowering it. The goal is to record into your muscles the right movements so that they are automatic when you're in the water. If you're struggling to control the wing and don't really feel like you're getting it, check the neutral and boom grip to add an intermediary step, which will prepare you for the full handling. Finally, you can check out controlling sailing angle with the wing for another exercise you can do on the beach, and once you feel in control on the beach, you're ready for your first entry in the water. Check the descriptions for all the links from this video, as well as to a playlist with all the classic falls from my students. This is all for today. Enjoy the practice and keep flying.